Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So we are live now. Amazing. This is a great session I look forward to. We're going to talk about involving others in our digital ministry. And we have a fantastic group here with us. Rachel Grant, she is the digital media marketing manager at More Good Foundation. Super cool job. She has so much stuff she's doing with digital mission work. Excited to have her here. I've always loved the things that they do at the More Good and things that Rachel does. Such a wonderful heart. Carrie Ann Hoops, social media manager for High Five and Haven Light Art. And Carrie, you were on. That was a fabulous session. So much that we've learned. I learned so much from that discussion, and people loved it. And then we have Tara. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you so much for making time to be here. And then Tara. Tara, can you say your last name?
McCausland. It's a tough
McCausland. And I've had a chance to meet Tara, and she's doing such good work. She's a founder and host of Still Rowing podcast, helping people with different faith crises and challenges that they may have. So this is a great group of people. This one here is we're gonna set the stage with the case of members and missionaries. As missionaries create their own Facebook pages, and as they embark in this digital journey, and then you have members who are trying to find ways to help them with the work, and how to do this, right? And there's an amazing way that's being done on High Five Live of you're inviting people twice a day, correct, Carrie? Ann?
Yeah, a couple of the days we've got twice a day, and then a couple of the days we've got 3 times a day.
Okay, yeah. So you got 2 to 3 members being involved, right? Creating content. Rachel, you guys have how many people are involved with creating content and We're Good?
I'm not sure. We have a lot of volunteers, and then
yes. How many?
It just depends. So we do, because we run internationally, there's a lot of different languages that require more volunteers or less. So I don't know. I can't give you a number.
Right?
It's a lot.
So you guys are doing a lot with members everywhere. And Tara, for your podcast, you're inviting members to your show all the time. So how do you do this, right? How do you involve members? Because missionaries are thinking to themselves, I have to create these 2 posts. I have to do this. And when you put that weight on someone's shoulder, that you're going to burn out really fast, right? Like it's not going to work, and your content is going to dwindle. It's going to get worse because you're just going to run out of ideas. So I would like to hear from each one of you. How do you do this effectively, and how do you get great content from involving members? So let's start out. Who would like to start?
I feel like we might have more experience from the High Five Live person, but I think I just want to say, and it could be different where I'm coming from, because there's different members that have different expertise. I would say probably use what's best that they can do, because it's so hard to give everybody the same, hey, everybody use this hashtag and post this post. Lots of people don't want to do that. Lots of people, everybody has they're comfortable in different ways. Someone might be really good at graphic design while someone else is good at whatever else. So I would say, get to know the members that you're working with, whoever's volunteering or whatever, and determine what their skill sets are. And so they're more excited to use their skill sets to help you share the gospel and mitigate some of the work you have.
So let me ask you that, and I want to jump to Carrie Ann and Tara here. But you have different projects. So before just saying, hey, because if you said members in general, come help out, right? That you probably get flooded and you don't know what to do with them. But how do you strategically think, okay, I imagine the missionaries, and you give feedback here, but they probably got to think, like, you got to have a kind of a project plan in mind or something that you want to get accomplished, and then assign that, right? Is that kind of how you run it there?
Yes,
because
absolutely.
Or else it's chaotic.
Yeah, you have to have a plan first, because if you think, oh, I have 50 volunteers, this is awesome. If you don't have a plan to give them to use their skills to help you accomplish the goal that you don't know, then they're going to burn out or wonder if this is even something they want to be in. So you have to have a plan and give them specific things that make them excited to do missionary work.
I like that. So let's go to Carrie Ann here, because High Five Live, and you've invited me to participate in it, and I was really impressed. You have a machine. It's an oiled machine that you've created to get members to help out. So how does that work from identifying to getting them in? And explain the process to us, because by doing that, people feel comfortable and have an amazing experience. And if you don't have that, it's going to fall apart really easy. So tell us how you guys do it, and educate these missionaries for, like, I want to do a High Five Live for my local area, right? What do they have to do?
And we want them. That's the thing. So thank you for that compliment. I've only been there. I've been on board for 2 years, and it started 3 years ago from a handful of seminary teachers who were like, we need to share and inspire. So these guys got together. And of course, probably the key is lots of mistakes and lots of learning. We stay together, and it's a well-oiled machine because of what we are all volunteering, is because of Pam. Pam is our administrative person. And so she contacts all of our guests. She is a guest every so often, and we do teasers every single day. So she is constantly finding profiles, pictures. Every day she's constantly in contact with upcoming guests, and she's organized. And so just like Rachel said, you have to go on people's strengths of what they're volunteering. Collaboration is key. And for us, when I came on, there was 5 guys and 1 girl, and I became the 7th member. We've now got, I think there's 15 of us, and there's a handful of us that are kind of the key executive team who had started. But something that Rachel said that I think is really important is you go off of their strengths. Each of us kind of, like, I run the section, the segments that are on the temple. It's something I'm passionate about. And so, but that doesn't mean I'm the only one that finds guests. Other people are like, I heard this story, they'd be a great guest. Yep, let's do it. And we, on a daily basis, have regular messages coming into each team member saying, I want to be on High Five Live. So there's a lot of vetting that we have to. Something that is really interesting is we've had a couple of non-members. We just had a Baptist preacher last week. He is a Baptist preacher. And we had one 2 years ago, year and a half ago, and he was incredible in Salt Lake City, running kind of a refugee program. I don't remember what religion he was, but powerful. And so the messages that we're trying to share will uplift anybody. Our main fan base and our main watcher base is LDS, but I'm the only member in my family, and literally all my family members watch. So it's been a great missionary tool for them to see that these situational things and experiences that happen to people, it's happening to them too. It's not about religion. It's that focus that this is life, and we're all struggling, and we all need each other. And that's the key, I think, with social media, is the collaboration. Is when, your page is great. I've been on so many podcasts because they reach out because of things like this, and I've had them on because you're sharing each other's messages and getting those things out so that everybody has more resources.
So I like that. So if we dissect that High Five Live a little bit, and we're going to go talk to Terry here a second. But so you have people responsible for different subject areas, right? You're over temples. And then you have an administrator that helps coordinate things. And she has this template, which I saw that, once you're a speaker and you've been, approved by someone like you, then a template gets shot out and says, Steve, I need this and this, I need your picture, I need your bio, I need these details. And it says, make sure you pray before you come online, and make sure you comment after you do that. So it doesn't take Pam that much more time to pull this together. So you find someone, or someone else finds someone, then, you create a little script of what they need to do. And then at specific time, they have to go live, right? What parts am I missing from this process?
Yeah, there's a script, so to say, like, hey, I want to thank who welcomed me, but there's no script per se as what their message is.
Yes.
It's basically kind of an itemized of, just say who invited you and a little bit of your background. Go into your message and then invite them if this has inspired anybody else to share this message. It's very simple. It's a little nerve-wracking, right? When you're going on, because you're like, okay, am I hitting all these points? I do it all the time now, and I still am, because it's the Lord's work and trying to share his message. And so you hit all the points. I think it's really important that I have learned. I have been fortunate, and I've had guests that I have vetted, and when I say vetted, I pray about it, or I've had a conversation with them, and I'm like you and I invited you by the end of our phone conversation because I knew the message that you would have. And it was powerful. What you shared was incredible about being a digital missionary and how your message came, or how your website came to be. And that's what it is. There's not anything specific like we're looking for. It's just that there's somebody that could share a message that will uplift and inspire everybody every day. And that's really what our motto is. And so I'm so grateful to be a part of it because it's blessed my life in so many ways. And the little things, I think, are the biggest things. When you have little things like that, to me, it's so well oiled now that a lot of people will reach out to me and say, hey, I've got a book coming out. I'd love to be on High Five Live. Okay, maybe. If it's an advertisement, it's automatic. Like, let me pause for a second. But there's so many people that will share. I'll have a guest on. And I know this is how it is for all the other team members. They'll have a guest on. And somebody will be inspired, and then someone will message them and say, this lady in our ward just lost a child. She's got this powerful story, whatever it be. Everybody comes to us. So we are still actively searching, but you said something, Stephen, that I think is really important, is that it's like you're doing the same thing. Like you run out of ideas, and we all hit that. And I'm sure, Rachel, you guys hit that on a project. Like, okay, we did this on another project. That's why you have to work together, so that other people, there's been times where I didn't have a guest, and I'm like, you guys, I don't have a guest. Any ideas? Or can one of you guys go? There's so many team members now that one of them can do it. I try to be on at least once a month because of the viewership that I have. They like to connect with me, and one of our other gals who was on earlier, Gainalyn, on an earlier segment today, she focuses on women. And one of the very highlights of that segment, of her segment, was when we had Brad Wilcox on. He was the first man on Women of Worth Wednesday. And he was like, I had no idea like how powerful these women are connecting. It's amazing when you put your heads together and you work together, how incredible. I think when you put your walls down, it's not a competition. I believe so strongly in, this collaboration, community over competition. Otherwise, we wouldn't be helping you today, Stephen.
Yeah, no, I love it because you are able to, it's a testimony meeting every day, and members are so already used to doing this, right, that missionaries could easily invite people to do it locally. And that's something, let's go to Tara, because Tara, you've done this, right? You've put this podcast on, and you put the focus, and now you invite people to it. So tell us, how do you pick the people you invite? What kind of experience have you had as you brought people in? And I bet most of the time it's helped that person more than it's helped the audience. So tell us a little bit more about that.
And perhaps what I'm doing might appeal to some of our listeners, because I'm not mobilizing big groups of people, and I'm just a solo act. And my husband, he's the one that does the tech most of the time. But I do a lot of my own editing. And so I'm, again, small scale, and I'm just reaching out to individuals that I either know personally, I might be familiar with their story because of growing up with them, or I see something on Facebook. But I've also been really successful. Like, you've had a couple of people on from Uplift Community of Faith. I found a lot of people there that have been great on the podcast, that have had strong stories of faith and struggle to share. And so for someone who may be feeling overwhelmed, like it's just me and I don't have armies of people to call upon, or I don't have a lot of background in tech, I believe that it's just a simple desire to do this work. And that's where it started for me. It started with a prayer and more prayers, letting the Lord know that I wanted to be an instrument in his hands. And I believe that when building the kingdom and serving his children is our goal, he will magnify our abilities and he will put us where we need to be and put the people in our paths that we need to have, whether it's a podcast or a YouTube channel or whatever you're using as a digital missionary tool.
And how do you pick your guests that speak at your podcasts? What have you found that? How do you find them? How do you pick them?
Well, again, it's kind of an organic process. I don't have a specific like calendar of topics that I want to cover. I just find people with stories that I think would be impactful, and I like to vary it. Obviously, we don't want it all to be on the same subject, but I may have an idea of something that I would like to be shared on the podcast, a conversation I'd like to have, and I keep my eyes out for those types of people. I get referrals sometimes from friends and family, but a lot of it is just finding people online and reaching out via Facebook Messenger. They don't know me from Adam, but I just reach out and I say, hey, I do this podcast. Here's the link to my podcast. You can listen and you can decide if you want to be a part of it. And then from there, if they accept the invitation, I have a process that I use after that.
That's great. And now, I'm so glad you're doing that. And, the second topic is there's an anxiety to get online. There's an anxiety to go on video. There's an anxiety to write a blog, right? So, Rachel, how do you help people overcome this anxiety? Because, it's easy for us to be shy. It's the same anxiety as inviting a friend to hear the gospel. It takes a lot of you got to get it out there, right? Or the same anxiety that comes from getting up to bear your testimony. Some people are like, hey, I do it every weekend, every once a month, I'm faithful, I schedule it, I'm on there. Versus others, it's like, oh my, right? Like you plan, you might have to write it out because you're so scared. So how do you help people overcome that? What do you tell your
is good
volunteers?
Because I am in a similar boat where I do a YouTube channel called Saints Unscripted. I help produce it. And what we do is we bring guests on and we talk about anything that has to do with the church, which I feel like a lot of podcasts and so forth do. But and they could be controversial topics, or maybe someone says, hey, I'm not really sure about this doctrine and I want to talk about it. And we'll bring them on and they're like, but wait, so many people are going to see. So like, I get the anxiety and I feel I would be petrified to be on that video. So, but I think that one of the most important things to keep in mind is even though you don't necessarily know who's going to see it, if you keep in mind, like the person that kind of think of a person that you would want to see it, maybe it's a best friend and you're like, yeah, I want to express these thoughts to them. Maybe it's your parent, maybe, whoever it is, and just pretend like you're talking to one person. And I know that you don't necessarily know that that's the case, but I think keeping in mind, we're trying to reach out to the one, typically the person who was going to hear this and resonate with your message and want to learn more. And of course, always keeping Jesus Christ as this is the reason why I want to share my testimony is because of him. Okay, so who am I going to share it with? Just this one person. So if you have any kind of anxiety about, I don't know if I should share this video or this post, sometimes on my personal page, speaking from Tara, who she's not a whole organization that's running this. I come from an organization that has a lot of members. And so I think coming from the one, sometimes on my personal account, I'll post like a video and I get super nervous because I'm like, oh, this is about the church. And I do this for a living. Like you would think it'd be natural, but I get the fear. And I think just thinking, but there is this one person that I knew from high school that I really hope sees this post. And if she does, and if it resonates with her, then I'll have done my job. So that could be helpful in just thinking of someone and of Jesus Christ.
No, I love that. And I want to go to Tara this time and then Carrie Ann. But Tara, how did you overcome? Like you started this podcast, right? And you were like what Rachel said. It's how do you overcome that anxiety? How did you were able to, do this and continue doing it, right? Because it's and you talk about topics they're crisis topics. They're tough topics to talk about. So how did you do it? And how would you counsel others to do that?
Well, not to repeat myself, but I think it starts with a desire. And so if you have a testimony of Jesus Christ, um, yeah, that desire should fuel that project or whatever you're wanting to do online, because then it will come from a space of wanting to do the Lord's work and not getting so many likes or so many followers, but just like Rachel was saying, reaching the one. But for me, I'll be honest, Stephen, I was really nervous about this. I do podcasts for a reason. I don't like to be on camera. I was thinking as I was preparing for this that, every servant of the Lord that we have, in Scripture. I was thinking about Moses, who was slow of speech, and Enoch, who said everybody hated him, and they both wondered how they could be assets for the Lord. But we see that a willing heart, a humble heart, a desire to serve the Lord can do mighty miracles through weak and simple things like you and me. And so if we move forward with faith, also doing what we feel like we can do well. I'm not going to ever be a YouTuber, never, because I don't do great on camera. And I also like to have the ability to record and then go back and edit to my heart's content. GarageBand can work miracles. That's one thing that I often will tell people, my guests who might be feeling some anxiety. In fact, I invited a fellow and he emailed me and said, I am so nervous. I said, guess what? GarageBand will save you. And you can do this as many times as you feel like you need. So that's more of a technical thing. But recognizing that if we have a desire, the Lord will use us. Do what we're good at. I'm not sure how to do this, but recognizing the Lord will magnify our abilities if we are willing servants.
I love that, and appreciate you doing this. And there's different channels to get your word out, right? So this is one of them, and you said podcasts. Now let's. I'm going to ask Carrie Ann. It's a different angle on this question. How do you thank your volunteers? Because I remember, to Tara's point, I have never done a live until Carrie Ann asked me, and I was super nervous. And I talked to my wife, and I was like, "Oh my goodness." But I said, I better do that before I get on this live webinars that we're doing, because I just don't. I'm an introvert in many ways, but my love for the Savior has made me want to share the gospel and do social media. But when I did it, all these feelings come to your mind. Oh my goodness, what did I do? How did I look? What did they say? Right? All that happens after the fact. And if you don't approach it well with that volunteer, they won't want to do it again. Yeah. So Carrie Ann, what should missionaries do if they were able to get a member like Tara to come do something, right, out of her comfort zone? How do you approach the after part to make sure that she can keep going and get her excited? Because you've done a great job with me. But how do you do that with all these other people you do? What's your best practice there?
Again, nobody's the same. So everybody's got different levels of platforms. Tara, I'm with you. I don't like to be on camera. That is seriously I'm doing it because I was you, Stephen. I was invited to be a guest. I was so nervous to the point of stomach indigestion. And I think that one, which you and I talked about earlier, Stephen, it's about the one. And being inspired by some of the messages that people sent to me or posted from my message made me realize, okay, I need to get out of my comfort zone and I need to share the gospel. So connecting myself, my experience with it, and how nervous I was like you were. I mean, I didn't know you hadn't done a live, and here you are all day doing it. So it's incredible. And so that's it, is I remember that feeling. The first time I did a podcast, how nervous I was. And I thought, and then they were like, oh, it's not live, we can edit it. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is so easy. I was just as nervous, because when you open your mouth and you open your heart, and your desires in the right spot, and you share the gospel, the Lord steps in. And the Spirit is there. And I think it's so cool, the panel that you have of the three of us, because we're three different levels here, truly, as these ladies were talking. A one-man band with her husband, and then us, who's kind of the middle, and then the more good foundation where it's a nonprofit on a big scale where it's got international. I mean, we're international, but we've got like 60,000 followers. You've got millions that connect through the church stuff, and it's just, you got all three levels. It doesn't make it any different to not, everybody's still nervous to do a podcast, to be part of a project for Rachel, to be a guest. I think the biggest thing is be authentic, and it has to be relevant. And so if they're nervous and there's something that they shared, something will resonate. Sometimes when we're nervous and uncomfortable, that's when the best is coming out. And that's when it's really going to connect with somebody, the one that needed to hear it. And so I really try hard to let people know, look, don't think about all the people, just like Rachel said. I say that all the time. Just worry about the one person. If you connect with one person, which you will, everybody does. There's something that will resonate with everybody. And so I think just making sure that they know they're not alone, and that everybody feels the same way they do, because it just, sharing the gospel, whether we hit post or share on a post, or whether we, hit the share button on somebody else's and post it to our own page, or we do something, it can be nerve-wracking, because you're putting yourself out there and your beliefs to basically be ridiculed or somebody have an opinion. But if you have that desire and you're following the Spirit, you've been prayerful about what you feel like you want to share, or you've been inspired to share, then you need that. That prompting is important. And that always comes back. You never go, gosh, I wish I didn't share that. That totally touched somebody's heart. There's always a connection somehow. And so validating their concerns, but also saying, I promise you, I've seen it, and it will connect, and you will be inspired by the people that you inspire. Because I think it always helps us more than it helps whoever they're teaching, right?
Yes, and I love that. I appreciate all of you participating in this panel. The last one I'd say here is, if you're asking someone to participate, make sure you listen to when they're speaking, and then when it's done, thank them and let them know how well they did and what you've learned from it, because that will help them a lot. And if you do that, it'll foster their ability to continuously sharing. So I appreciate all of you for what you do and the example that you've shared here today, and I'm sure that blessed the lives of many. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, bye.